So your healthy reef will have all the colours. If it's bleached, it's pure white. And then from there is a dead reef.
The Great Barrier Reef is one of the biggest barrier reefs in the world. It used to be a healthy, teeming with life reef, and now you see it's desolate.
The environmental impact on a large scale is the loss of huge amounts of oxygen being produced by the coral reefs. They produce more oxygen than the rainforests.
If it keeps going this way, we're going to have nothing left in the next 20 years.
Let's look after it, because if it disappears, we're dead.
The biggest issue is that of climate change. Subtle increases in the water temperature breaks a relationship that the coral has with an algae that lives inside it. And the algae actually is expelled from the coral, and so what you see is the white calcium carbonate skeleton of the coral through a very thin layer of living tissue, and that's called coral bleaching.
You can start watching sites go from maybe 5 or 10% bleaching to now being like 60% bleached.
It's like a stab in the heart, you know what I mean? You feel like crying.
When Australia decided to open up their coal mines again off of Cairns, all the silt and the sand washed down onto Barrier Reef, and it lands in the corals and it suffocates them.
It's just a short-term making money plan, and this is the sad part.
If we lose corals, we lose a huge association of biodiversity, and that really matters. We have lots of island nations that rely on the ocean for sources of protein. We lose the three-dimensional structure of the reef. That increases coastal erosion. We potentially lose new medicine discoveries, and also increasingly important is a source of income through tourism.
We will see a knock-on effect. Some species will be lost, or shallow waters could become quite barren.
It is a very worrying prognosis, but there are pockets of hope.
The tourism industry came to this island, to this Raja Ampat, about 10 years ago. But in this area, the coral is still intact.
Raja Ampat is part of the Coral Triangle, ranging from the Philippines, Malaysia, across to Indonesia.
This is what the Barrier Reef used to be like.
Millions of fish, the colors are vibrant. You can almost feel the coral growing in front of you. It's just an unbelievable feeling.
It is believed that the coral reef systems here are hardier to temperature changes and disease. The aim of our coral nursery is to find out which species of coral are surviving the best in the higher sea temperatures. When they're out in the trees, they have less risk of weather damage, they've got better water circulation, they're growing faster. Nurseries are where children go to, and these corals are a bit like our children that we are growing to make big and strong, to put back to compete for their own space and survival.
I'm focusing on captive reproduction. Corals spawn over just 1 or 2 nights a year. What happens if we could do that 12 months of the year through managed captive reproduction? There's a growing body of work looking at something called sexual reproduction. You in essence create in vitro fertilization babies, a bit like test tube coral babies, genetically diverse individuals, in the hope that a number of those will show resilience against some of the impacts of climate change.
With the strict rules of the government and also people around here, more campaigning about how to look after the corals, I think I'm not really worried about this. It's in my area, not, I don't know, about the other area.
It won't happen in our lifetime, and I can't see it happening in our kids' lifetime. Hopefully by then people would have woken up, but I'm not very optimistic about the future, really.
With all the projects that are on the go for coral conservation and research, if given the protection now, the corals will survive and adapt, so will the marine life, and it will bounce back.
Until people actually sort of get out and snorkel or go scuba diving, they don't really understand the effects that bleaching is having. The reef is not just about the corals that is there. It's about the hundreds of different marine life, from fish, crustaceans, reptiles with turtles, the whole network of life that it supports. It's very difficult to understand how important these little corals are.
Will there be reefs into the future? Let's hope there are. Will they have less biodiversity? Yes, they will. Bleaching events are going to become more and more frequent. There are individuals that are showing resilience. Is that enough? Possibly not. not if we don't stem the impacts of climate change and the projections that we're seeing. There is an onus on us, humanity, to do something about this and act now.